I'm delighted to welcome Alessio Quaglini, CEO and co-founder of Hextrust. Good to see you in our Admiralty studio, Alessio. And how are you today?
Fantastic, and thanks for having me here.
You're most welcome. We're delighted to have you. Now, there's so much going on in the world of crypto right now, it's difficult to know where to start. But there does seem to be a lot of hostility to crypto at the moment in the US, with the SEC investigating Binance and Coinbase. What do you think is driving all of this?
Well, first of all, obviously there are different winds blowing. In the US, we have this kind of regulation by enforcement, while in other parts of the world, we're actually seeing a progressive opening towards crypto. When we talk about the US, well, I would say that the direction that the SEC has taken is quite clear. So they want to curb any players that are operating in the U.S. or with U.S. investors and clients that are not registered with the SEC. There are several reasons that I believe they are taking this direction, and we can discuss them. But I think it's mainly about the control that the U.S. currently have on the banking and the financial system overall, and that cryptocurrencies and blockchain might actually put a stake.
Okay, so how long do you think this will carry on for, and what do you think the outcome will be of the investigations?
I think there will be a kind of one aspect of it, which is the investigations against Binance, Coinbase, and all the other cryptocurrencies players that they will target afterwards. And this is probably going to be quite a long litigation. But that is kind of the past. Then there's going to be a future, and it really what really matters is how long will it take until the SEC and the other regulators will be able to formulate a plot on where the regulation is going, and new players that want to register with these authorities will be able to actually operate in the U.S. freely.
It's taken them a long time to get round to these investigations, because it's not as if Binance and Coinbase have just started doing what they're doing. Well, what's taken them so long?
Well, okay. So, I mean, your point is very valid. Actually, Binance and Coinbase have been operating in the U.S. and I would say without hiding from regulators, right, for a number of years. I think obviously there is a part which is the investigation, which obviously takes a very long time to collect enough evidence to actually have a strong case against these companies. But I think the most important part here is that the U.S. is actually they're the ones that might be losing the most, right, if cryptocurrencies and blockchain is successful. And this is really the turning point. We're seeing adoption finally. We're seeing institutions come into the market. We're seeing other parts of the world that are making blockchain and cryptocurrencies available to more or less everybody. And this could really put a stake the dominance that the U.S. have in the financial markets infrastructure, as well as deciding who can access the banking system through sanctions and AML policies, etc., as well as kind of deciding whether they want to keep or they can keep the monopoly of the U.S. as a trading currency globally, but as well as a global reserve currency. So I think it's driven more by, all right, so something is really happening here. So are we going to let it happen and maybe put a stake all the competitive advantages that we have in the world, or should we at least try to slow it down?
Which way do you think they'll go?
I think in the end, the U.S. Free market, so it's going to be very hard to be completely carved out from the rest of the world and operate in a completely different fashion. They can slow it down, right? They cannot kill it. So they will try to make it, I would say, very expensive and very inconvenient for U.S. investors to access these assets, so that the kind of casino money can continue and U.S. investors will be forced to hold their deposits with U.S. institutions or as an alternative to buy U.S. bonds. Right? But at a certain point in time, capital is fungible. And blockchain assets are even more fungible than capital. Bitcoin is borderless, so you don't need to be in the US. You don't need to access a US registered intermediary to buy Bitcoin. You can do it anywhere, from anywhere, and at any time, right? So it's going to be very, very hard to completely block the whole, I would say, high net worth individuals and institutional investors market from accessing these assets.
Yeah, you mentioned the hostility could actually drive US-based firms to other countries. Where are they relocating or considering to relocate, Alessio? And I'm particularly interested to know, is Hong Kong an option?
Well, I mean, they are already relocating. I think they were different. Okay, so it hasn't been as easy as it looks. So it's not that Hong Kong always had their arms wide open for U.S. firms to come here and operate. There has been a change recently, and that obviously has attracted a lot of firms. But I would say that the trend until recently, was actually the other way around. So firms actually leaving Hong Kong for other destinations. So where are U.S. firms and global investors going? Hong Kong could be a destination. I've been quite public in that I think the SFC fell a little bit short in terms of regulating the crypto markets here in Hong Kong, but it's still a very positive sign that there's an opening, an attitude towards cryptocurrencies that is more positive than before. Also involving not only the SFC but also banks and other regulators. But there are other places that are becoming quite favorable. I mean, I would mention the UAE and Dubai in particular. They have put in place I would say a very probably the most advanced regulation and the most welcoming regulator for digital asset players that want to actually run their own business from that region. And also, I mean, obviously Europe right now with MiCA coming to existence could be a good place, and I think there were recent comments from the Prime Minister in the UK about the UK probably becoming a global hub for cryptocurrencies.
A big thank you to Alessio Quaglini, CEO and co-founder of Hex Trust.